Rivers is a professional countertenor and storyteller, and he's making a series of professional appearances around the country as an exponent of his Gullah Geechee upbringing and culture. He joins me here in the studio in the spotlight during a pass through Rochester, New York. We're very lucky to have him with us. Thank you so much, Zabriel, for coming in.
Thank you.
Good to meet you again.
Good to meet you too.
And so you're a countertenor and a storyteller.
Yes, I am.
That's a unique way to make a living.
Yep. So not only do I sing opera and classical music, I also do Gullah Geechee music and original storytelling.
And tell people what a countertenor is for those who really understand the term.
A countertenor is a male classical singing type vocal folk, and we sing in the alto range. So I sing higher than a tenor.
Higher than a tenor?
But lower than a soprano.
Lower than a soprano, okay. Understood. And so that can be in music like Handel and Bach.
Yeah, yes.
Classical repertoire.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I also do my spirituals in the same voice, so.
Do the spirituals in the same voice?
I sure do.
And that's what your solo recitals contain, the spirituals, music from your Gullah Geechee background?
Yes. All of my songs in A Gullah Evening with Zabriel are spirituals that you would hear in a Gullah Geechee praise house. And a Gullah Geechee praise house is a one-room white church that slaves would meet and we would worship. We would sing spirituals that we made up on the various cotton fields and rice fields as work songs. And that will be the place where we met and convened about issues going on in our community, and just a place that we would convene and just stay strong and commune together. So I want to just showcase that and showcase those spirituals that we all love.
And how did you come to know this music and this culture?
Well, I grew up on St. Helena Island, South Carolina, and the Gullah Geechee community spans from Jacksonville, North Carolina to Jacksonville, Florida. So there are various islands, and I'm from St. Helena Island, South Carolina, and we grew up singing those songs in church, going to the praise houses every Friday night. We will call it the Hour of Power. So I'm very excited to share that with everyone tonight.
Now, the term is Gullah Geechee. Can you tell us about those words and what the background is?
Yes, Gullah Geechee. The Gullah Geechee people are descendants of West Africa, mainly the countries Sierra Leone and Angola. And a lot of people say that the word Gullah is from Angola, like a spin-off Gola. We're the Gullah people. So we were brought to the American coastal sea islands on the East Coast from, like I said, Jacksonville, Florida, all the way up to Jacksonville, North Carolina. And the various islands and coastal sea islands were where the slaves were brought to work the rice fields, the cotton fields, and the indigo fields. Because where they were from, Sierra Leone, that's the rice coast in Africa. So they were specifically sought out as rice cultivationists to come out and work on those plantations.
For their expertise.
Yeah. And because those lands were isolated in marshes and various islands, there were a lot of tropical diseases and malaria, bugs, and snakes in the marshes and stuff. So the enslavers didn't live on those islands in communities with the slaves. So they lived there isolated by themselves for many years, and that's how the language was cultivated. They retained the language from when they came over from Africa. And so
Gullah refers to Angola, but Geechee, where does that term come from?
It's like a Creole word from West Africa, Sierra Leone and Creole.
Mm-hmm. So that's having to do with the Ogeechee River that runs right there. Yeah. Understood. So now, are the Gullah people strictly on the islands, or is there an inland population as well?
Yes, they're scattered all throughout. Like there's various islands, the Fusky. So there's just many thousands of islands, and they live inland too.
Mm-hmm. Because cotton doesn't grow on the islands.
Yes, but the rice does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, indigo is an important import crop for that.
Yes.
That's changed our culture in America. I think one of our big exports. And now, did the music that you sing have to do with that culture? Are they work songs, or?
Yeah, they're work songs. So these were songs that got them through the day, through the tumultuous heat. They would sing these songs, and they would also use these songs as codes for escaping, runaway songs. Especially later on when it was time for the Civil War, they also had songs too to alert the slave people what was going on in the war.
Interesting, yeah. And it's interesting that the enslavers didn't live on those islands because they were not accustomed to or immune to the diseases and
Yeah.
didn't know how to handle the snakes and that.
Yeah. So they allowed the Gullah people to live there, and eventually they would work and they would make deals with the Indians, and they would grow the rice and make the deals with their enslavers, and eventually some of them will buy those plantations back from their enslavers. So that's how we ended up staying on those lands, and it became the Gullah Geechee Nation, as we call it.
What survives of Gullah culture on St. Helena Island?
St. Helena
St.
Island.
Helena Island.
Yes, if you go there, you still hear the music.
Uh-huh.
We have a lot of arts and crafts like basket weaving, dance, the Gullah ring shout dance, and various spirituals that we still sing today.
And those baskets are famous.
Yes, they're very famous. Yes. Very unique. You call them all shapes and sizes, and they're very hard to make too.
You're right, made from the sweet grass that grows there.
Yes, very skilled.
And are there loan words in the language that come from English, or you said that they developed their own language?
Yes.
Creole, so it's a mix of things.
Because see, when they were brought from Africa, some of them still spoke their native tongues, and then it mixed it with some broken English, so they communicate with their enslavers.
Right.
English, Creole, and other different dialects.
I was interested. I got to go to Dafusky Island.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And we took a tour, and the guide told us, this is the first key being an island, is Dafusky. And that's how it got its name. It's Dafusky as you go along, in the local. So interesting that those words are developed just out of colloquialism, vernacular.
Yes.
So when you sing your performances, what do you include in your solo recital?
Spirituals, and they're mostly still in the Gullah language. So you will hear a lot of that dialect, a lot of those words, like kumbaya, come by here, so different words you'll hear throughout the concert and be able to recognize. So it's a little different from how we would sing it, in a classical spiritual way. Just the language is a little different.
I see. Do you have an example that you can give us briefly?
Let me see. I'm going to tell God all of me troubles when I get home. Home, I'm going to tell God all of me troubles when I get home. So yeah, when I warm up, I'm gonna sing it a little higher for you.
That's
I got
okay.
you.
That's high enough for us. Now, are there other composers who have picked up this influence and used it in their music that you?
Yes, a lot of the spirituals we know today, like Hall Johnson and Hall Johnson.
Maybe Harry Burley.
Even Florence Price. A lot of those use the same melodies and the same text.
Interesting, and the way they notate the language, even some of them.
Yeah, because some of that broken English derives from some terms in Gullah. So.
Now, how does this influence your other work? Do you find yourself being informed when you sing classical music because of the folk element, or your perspective on your other life? What bleeds across between the cultures for you?
For me, it's the storytelling. I blend, a lot of the messages that you hear in the music is also in our storytelling. It always has a message in it. So I try to blend those two together, try to incorporate the songs with the stories to give it more meaning and bring it to life.
So are you telling stories during your recital as well? You're telling stories, are these personal stories, or do you draw from
Yes, some of them are personal stories, and then some of them are cultural stories. In the Gullah community, we have what we call animal stories, and we have Brer Rabbit, which is a rabbit, and Anansi, which means spider. So we have a lot of stories about them, and they are called trickster animals, because you have your regular animals, and then you have your trickster animals who are very, sneaky, but they always have a message in the end.
So a moral in there.
Yes.
They're a teaching device as well.
Yep, and then I also have stories about, the tumultuous journey from Africa to the Americas and how we endured and were freed from slavery.
And how about the everyday life conditions and that sort of thing?
Yeah, and a lot of things that we do culturally, like our dancing, our music, our art.
Art. What kind of art? Is this folk art, or do you have friends who are artists?
Yeah, artists like actual painters and artists. There's actually a famous Gullah painter named Sam Doyle.
Okay.
That I would love people, if you could, to go read up about him.
Right.
He was a Gullah artist, and where he lived he was very passionate about painting, and he would paint and he would set each of his artworks around his yard.
Interesting.
So over the years, he had like his whole yard was full with paintings and different art and sculptures and things. And people would walk, drive by, and at first they would say it was trash and it was garbage, it wasn't worth anything, it was ugly.
Yeah.
But now, after his passing, unfortunately, that work has been taken in, and now it's worth millions.
Yeah.
And now people appreciate the art, and they can see the different Gullah Geechee cultures that he was portraying in that art.
Well, that is fascinating. And Gullah Geechee people have made inroads in all the world over, really. It's been a diaspora.
Yeah. Like I said, the spirituals that we sing today, I mean, the only difference is more just simple broken Southern English. But it's the same, pretty much the same songs, just more, the language. It's just
I remember Brer Rabbit growing up as a child. Brer Rabbit was one of the stories that, and there were others, too, that are not so correct for families to read to their children these days. And in some ways that's a loss, I think. But and so it's interesting to me now, do you stay in touch with your family? You're not living in St. Helena right now.
Currently, I'm not. Currently, I'm based in Montgomery, Alabama, and then, I travel wherever I'm booked to work. But I do go home very often. I'm home for most festivals, our Gullah Parade and Heritage Days Festival on Penn Center. So I'm there usually performing and sharing stories.
Yeah, Penn Center is big.
Yes, the Penn Center School is the first school for African American enslaved children.
That is amazing.
So and my first job.
And your first job. Now, is the language repressed at all as it was for Native Americans, or in Penn Center do they acknowledge the Gullah Geechee language and still use it?
Oh yes, yes. Even the young kids still use those words, and we use a lot today in our culture, like words like bussin', and we still use like tanky, things like that means thank you. So and there are a lot of musicians and stuff that still perform Gullah Geechee music and art.
And what kind of instruments are these? Because some instruments like banjo were African instruments brought here. Are those the kind of instruments, or what instruments are you likely to find? Yeah,
the banjo. Well, really there is really acoustic, acapella, I'm sorry.
Acapella.
So there in the praise house, you will see it's stumping, clapping, and just vocal acapella music.
Vocal acapella music.
Yeah.
And how about Bible stories? Do those figure in the narratives, the storytelling?
Yes, they do. Now, the Bible stories aren't in A Gullah Evening with Zabriel, but I have other shows that I'm developing, like A Gullah Christmas with Zabriel, or Juneteenth with Zabriel, whatever. So those will incorporate more Bible stories and different things that match the theme of the show.
Do they use storytelling on St. Helena Island, for instance, to bring people along in biblical stories?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so that's part of teaching the Bible.
Yeah, we actually have a Gullah Bible that's all translated in the Gullah language.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah.
And spirituals themselves are in different categories. You mentioned work songs and circle songs. Are there others? Are there?
Spirituals, work songs, circle songs. Yeah, we do with the ring shout dancing. That's pretty much it.
That's pretty much it.
Because they're really based in Christianity and gospel and their roots. So.
Oh, that's fascinating. And you mentioned the ownership of these properties. Now, that's generational wealth that those people were able to develop. They were supervisors and overseers of the industry.
Yeah, but the story didn't end there. Eventually in the early 1900s, a lot of Europeans, I guess, settlers or vacationers, or what we want to call them, tourists, started moving inland and on those islands, and they started getting rid of the bugs and all the things that made it unlivable to live there. And they started moving in and driving out the natives. Yeah. And now they have golf courses and vacation homes and things, and price the people out and pushing them out. So there are still many of us still there, but there's also a constant fight to stay and to push back against that.
Right. And are you likely to find those tabby structures? Those are the ones where they mix the shells with the calcium and make these special white buildings. Is that what's on St. Helena too?
Yes, you can find that. Yeah, all those buildings and different little potteries, like how we put the glass bottles hanging from the trees. Yeah, they're supposed to catch spirits and little different symbolisms and stuff.
And do they sweep the yards like they do elsewhere?
Yep.
Wow, that's amazing.
Sure do. A lot of those practices are still going on there.
Oh, that is an amazing snapshot of life.
Yep.
So what about the language preserves the 18th century? Because a lot of this developed during the 1700s. It's really the 18th century America. It's as though it got preserved for the rest of us. Do you feel as though it's a snapshot of 18th century life?
The language?
Yes, language and culture. And
Yeah, it could. It's a mixture of everything that was going on at the time. The Creole, the various African countries and their diverse dialects. And it mixed in with the English. And a lot of those words we still use today, a lot of slang and stuff. I'm like, oh, that's a Gullah word, or it's similar to those words.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of Ebonic slang.
Ebonic.
Yeah.
Right, so it's entered the modern vernacular.
Yes, so it's weaved in. Yeah.
How about writers? Do you look at Gullah writers and that thing? Is there literature or fiction that people could be reading or looking at, do you think?
Yes, I can't think of any specific writers at the moment on top of my head. Well, there are a lot of different Gullah poets. Yeah.
That's fascinating. Now, if you're trying to learn more about this, what do you draw on, for instance? Are there websites that you visit to learn more about your culture and that sort of thing?
I like to go to different museums, and I go to different events, and I talk to leaders in our community, really, to get the history. Queen Qued and Anita Prather, and I attend those shows and talk to them, and we, talk about the history.
Are they musicians or storytellers themselves, or?
Storytellers, historians.
Historians.
Yeah, performers.
How about cooking? Is there a special cuisine that goes with St. Helena?
Oh, yes, and a lot of our food ties to West Africa, too, like collard greens. They would call it callaloo there. Or how they yams, and we call it sweet potatoes now. So a lot of those different foods we still make, but it's just a different, like for example, I had jollof rice from Nigeria.
Yeah.
And it's very similar to our red rice that we eat on St. Helena Island. So that was cool.
Yeah, I understand that the rice grown in the United States is African rice. It's not Asian rice.
No.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Even the breed of rice, that's a specific kind.
Yes.
And there was a fascinating article. The Corps of Engineers did some excavation off the coast.
Oh, wow.
And found some pumps and irrigation canals and early technology that was brought by the people from Sierra Leone because they knew how to grow rice.
Yep, on the rice coast, yeah.
It's very fascinating.
Yeah, generations of rice cultivation. That's why they were specifically sought out and protected when they got here.
And protected when they got here.
Yep.
So they were distinguished individuals.
Yep.
Quite accomplished. Isn't that something?
It is.
So now where does this go for you? You're touring around the country, and the state of South Carolina is supporting your efforts in this. Tell us a little bit more about how you go out and relate to the communities.
Yes, I like to go out and perform and share because there, the Gullah Geechee community, while they say there's 1 million of us on the census, but through runaways and just migration, Black people moving through the north and out west, a lot of us have been scattered throughout the country. So a lot of us don't even know that they are Gullah Geechee. So when I come and I make them aware of it, and then some of them say, my grandparents told me that I might be a Gullah Geechee on my mom's side or my dad's side. So it's always good to hear that. And I tour it around just to bring awareness to a community that sometimes is overlooked. So.
I imagine you could listen to somebody speak and see if they have any Gullah language.
I know, yeah. I can tell when someone's from Charleston,
really?
Or South Carolina, yeah. So every island, the accent's a little bit different. So.
Now, Savannah is a large city near there. Does that have Gullah Geechee culture?
Yep.
Can people explore it there? Have you looked into
Yes. From Jacksonville, North Carolina, all down that coast, South Carolina, Georgia, into Florida.
Oh, interesting. I know that they traveled down the Ogeechee River, and then Intercoastal Waterway goes south along the southeast coast of the United States to Jacksonville, and to St. Augustine, because the Spaniards were there, and they were, that was a different community. They could find some freedom by going south. A lot of people think the Underground Railroad
was always north.
Yeah. But people escaped south.
Yes.
That's fascinating too. Interesting that all these things come together. Well, it's just delightful to talk to you. Now, are you trying to write any poetry that you might include in your shows?
No, but what I am going to do though is I want to professionally record A Gullah Evening with Zabriel, which is, side A, the spiritual, side B, storytelling.
I see.
And I want to incorporate, all those traditional stories I've been taking around, and I've mastered now at this point. doing it so much and getting the reception and fixing up things that need to be fixed up. And always trying to add, how can I teach more Gullah in every story? How can I teach them something? So I want to get that recorded and get that out.
And are you in schools when you visit communities as well?
Yes, I do a lot of elementary schools, especially with Montgomery Public Schools and Beaufort County Public School District.
I see. Beaufort, South Carolina. Spelled Beaufort, but
I know, right? But they say Beau, so the beautiful.
And so if people want to engage you for a recital or for school visits, how do they find you?
You can find me at my website at zabrielrivers.com. And I have a tab that says how to help or book an event. And you can click there and all the information will be there. And
not to put you on the spot, but do you have a short story that you might be able to share with us?
Yes, I can. How much time do I have?
Yeah, about 7 minutes.
Okay. So I want to share a story about Brer Rabbit, a Brer Rabbit story. And I'm going to try to go fast. So, okay.
Rabbits are fast, but you have plenty of time.
All right, so Brer Rabbit, as we know, is a trickster animal. He plays tricks, but there's always a lesson in the story. So one day, he was walking down the swamp, hopping around, and he ran into Brer, and Brer is Gullah for brother. That's what we say. So we say Brer Rabbit, Brer Gator. So he's walked upon Brer Alligator, and he said, "Hey, how you doing?" And Alligator said, "I'm doing fine, Brer Rabbit. How's your day going?" And he said, "I'm doing good, just trying to stay out of trouble." So Brer Alligator said, "Trouble? I've never heard anyone, what is that? Is that, who is Trouble? I've never met that before. Who's that?" So Brer Rabbit looked at him, and that's when he got his idea. So he laughed and he said, "Oh, you silly alligator. You don't know Trouble. I will introduce you to him." So the alligator said, "Okay, when will you do it?" He said, "Well, I'll do it tomorrow. So go ahead and get the family. We can make it a trip. We can make it a whole day." So the alligator went back to the swamp with his family, and he told all the alligators, "Tomorrow, we're all going to go with Brer Rabbit to meet this man named Trouble that he's going to introduce me to." So now back in those times, how alligators have cracked, ugly, dried skin? In those days, alligators had smooth, soft, beautiful skin like marble. And they were very full of themselves, so they would always be in the mirror, tossing and turning and fighting over the mirror and fighting over that. So the next morning, after they had got through fighting over the mirror, taking their time to get dressed, they finally got ready, and the father took all the family up to the swamp to meet Trouble. And when they got on the land, they did not see Brer Rabbit. He was nowhere to be found. So he told his family, he said, maybe he got a little caught up in the woods, and maybe he's still on the way. He promised me he's going to take us to meet Trouble. So let's just walk inwards into the woods, and hopefully we'll bump into him. And that's what they did. But eventually, after looking for him and never finding him, they got tired. And they got hot. The baby alligator was crying. Everybody was complaining. So the father alligator looked over. He said, "Okay, I see a pile of hay over here in the field. So let's just go lay here and take a nap. And hopefully by the time we wake up, Brer Rabbit would have found us and we can go meet Trouble." And that's what they did. They went and they laid and they rested. But the whole time, Brer Rabbit was sitting up in a tree watching them. And he was getting a kick out of it because this is the most fun he had in a couple of days. So as they were sleeping, that's when Brer Rabbit got the bright idea. He said, so he took his pipe that he was smoking and he tapped it. And the two little things of coal started to set the hay on fire. So the father alligator, Brer Alligator, he woke up and he said, "I smell something. And it's such a weird smell that I've never smelled before. It must be Trouble." So he woke up all the other alligators and he's like, "Oh, I smell it. It's Trouble." And everyone said, "Yes, that's such a weird smell." And so when they saw like a little ball of red and then orange and yellow. And then over it had like a little puff of gray. And he said, "Wow, look how beautiful it is. Everyone stay still and quiet. We don't want to scare it off. That has to be Trouble. I've never seen it before." And as it grew and got closer, he said, "Everyone, shh. It's getting used to us. It's coming closer." And as it grew and got closer, it bit them. And he said, "Oh, this Trouble is such a bad, mean creature. We got to get out of here." And as that fire burned them, they ran and jumped up into the swamp. Big old ball of steam came up. And that is the story of how alligators came from being beautiful and smooth to rough, dry, and cracked. So that's just a little fun story about Brer Rabbit and his tricks.
Rudyard Kipling has some how leopards got their spots, and
You're right.
You know.
So that's just one like that. So
alligator got this. It's fascinating. Well, that would make an exciting program for,
I know,
for young
right?
people and for a general audience.
yeah, that's a story I would probably tell if I were to go to like an elementary school or something like that. Yeah.
That's fascinating. It's wonderful to meet you and to hear your music. And so where are you? Your next stops coming up in the coming months?
My next stop is going to be at Alabama State University.
Uh-huh.
And I'm going to be performing there for the students there. And I know they're going to have a good time and enjoy it.
Uh-huh.
It'll be my first time back there performing there since I graduated. So
Oh, my.
I'm very excited.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And you were recently in a production called Jubilee. That was a national, wonderful production.
Yes, I was at the Alabama Shakespeare Festival.
Uh-huh.
And I played the role of Frederick J. Loudon.
Uh-huh.
And he was an ex-slave. He was older, non-traditional student. When he heard about the opening of Fisk,
Uh-huh.
he signed up.
Uh-huh.
Now this part, I think it was just a dramatization for the show.
I see. That's
But
Fisk University in Nashville.
Yeah.
Yes. Mhm.
Uh-huh. And he went and attended that school. I think it was just a dramatization. He had a little affair with one of the ladies in the choir. He was a player.
Uh-huh.
So it was fun playing that role.
I imagine.
Yeah, and that's how I learned about. I didn't know about the Fisk University singers prior to that.
Oh, it's interesting.
Yes.
The Jubilee Singers, yeah, they're very influential as well.
Yes.
And so that was an opera production. Do you have any opera productions or any other professional engagements, non-Gullah, coming up?
Yes, I do. I have some things coming up, some Baroque
Some Baroque
singing. You know, I do a lot of concert work too.
concert
So,
work. I see.
yeah.
Under professional management and all the rest of that.
Yes, sir.
Oh, that is fantastic. So tell us again what your website is and what people are likely to find there.
You can find me at www.zabrielrivers.com, and you can find info about me, upcoming performances, pictures and videos.
Oh, that's wonderful. And anything else that you'd like to tell our audiences in the 30 seconds we have left?
Stay tuned for the official professional recording of A Gullah Evening with Zabriel.
Yeah, and the Christmas show sounds fantastic.
I know, I'm so excited. It's going to be so funny. It's about our Gullah Santa, our Gullah version of
Oh,
him.
I didn't know you had Gullah Santa.
Yes, a Gullah version of him, and I'm going to take on that role.
And he doesn't wear the red and white that came from Coca-Cola, or?
He does.
Okay.
He does. And he has a little white makeup on the face like a mime.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
flip on the
And
story.
he's like a comedian, so, you know, no matter what gift the Gullah children ask for, it's too expensive. So that's the catch.
So he's a trickster animal.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Well, we'll talk.
Pretty much.
We'll talk about how. We'll talk about how Santa Claus got his white face. Well, Zabriel, it's just wonderful to have you with us here in the spotlight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For joining us. My guest has been countertenor and storyteller and a wonderful exponent of Gullah Geechee culture. He's a wonderful guy. His name is Zabriel Rivers. Thanks for being with us in the spotlight. Join us next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.